Hey, good morning. I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack, and we're broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth. It is Trump Day, and this is your official special report on Inauguration Day. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Monday. I've got my Let's Go Brandon coffee mug, which oftentimes you see in the background, but I rinsed it off and threw a little bit of tea in just to kind of start the day off right. I do have the rest of the tea and the Yeti, but I am so happy today, as I think so many of you are. Thank you so much for joining us. We have big news that is broken in just the last half an hour. Let's go right to the letter from President Biden, who's president now for, hold on, let me just check my watch. Not much longer, just a few more hours. And he has pardoned in his last morning as president. Oh, hold on. As president, the Biden administration, he has pardoned Anthony Fauci and General Milley. Let's go right to the letter from the White House. Let's go with that button there. Statement from President Biden, January 20th. There has been a lot of things that have gone down in the last, couple of days. This is remarkable. Waiting for the last day to pardon these two. Our nation relies on dedicated, selfless public servants every day, Joe Biden says. They are the lifeblood of democracy, yet alarmingly, public servants are the subject to ongoing threats and intimidation for faithfully discharging the duties. In other words, Fauci and Milley are victims, don't you know? By the way, does anyone ever kind of think about the public servants that have been ongoing threats? Maybe that could actually be Trump, right? Trump meets that definition, doesn't he? Where's Trump's pardon, Joe Biden? Or all the people that were persecuted for their activities on January 6th? Where are their part? Oh, they're coming. Don't worry, they're coming. They're coming. In certain cases, some have been threatened with criminal prosecutions. Remember, a lot of those January 6 people, they did things that were wrong, but a lot of them didn't. And they were still prosecuted or persecuted, as I may say. These people here have not been prosecuted. These are preemptive pardons, including General Mark A. Milley and Dr. Anthony S. Fauci, and members and staff of the J6 committee. These public servants have served our nation with, according to Joe Biden, honor and distinction, and do not deserve to be the targets of unjustified, politically motivated prosecutions. And then it goes on to describe General Milley and Anthony Fauci's expectations. Then it goes on to describe a rather description of what happened on January 6th. And this is why I'm exercising my authority under the Constitution to pardon Milley, Fauci, and all these people. And the U.S., let's see who else is served here, and the U.S. Capitol and Metropolitan police officers who testified before the committee. The issuance of these pardons should not be mistaken as acknowledgement that any individual engaged in any wrongdoing, nor accepted or misconstrued as an admission of guilt. Actually, it kind of does. I mean, if you're getting this pardon preemptively, it is maybe not in a court of law, but it is basically an admission that you did something wrong, right? It kind of is. Right? It is. Our nation owes the public debt of gratitude. This is shocking news. You'll remember, we're going to talk about Anthony Fauci in a second, but you'll remember Mark Milley. He's the one that said we should understand white rage.
To be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage.
He wants to understand white rage because you're just an awful, if you happen to be white, you're just an awful person. He wants to understand you. He wants to understand you. The case against Anthony Fauci is just, it is so hard to like wrap your head around, but what happened? But let's just draw a really simple diagram here in your mind. Anthony Fauci authorized grants to the EcoHealth Alliance. That EcoHealth Alliance then took that money and invested or spent it, depending upon how you want to say it, in a lab in China. Now, right off the bat, that should have been a warning that maybe we shouldn't be spending our National Institutes of Health money in China. Yeah, right off the bat, that might not work out. Why are we spending money, the federal government, in China? Which basically also makes me wonder, like, how many other U.S. tax dollars are spending in China on other things? We shouldn't be spending any U.S. tax dollars in mainland China at all, right? Not at all. But that's what we did. And then, while they were expending some of our U.S. tax dollars in a lab in China, in Wuhan, they developed the virus, right? The virus is the name of the lab is the name of the virus. And then, with the chutzpah of uncalculable chutzpah, he then, having basically sponsored the creation of the virus, he then becomes a saint, effectively, amongst many people in the United States, in regulating and cracking down and destroying so many civil rights here in the United States. Like, this guy isn't a saint. He's the perpetrator. He's the perp. He's the perp. And yet, for some reason, both the Trump and the Biden administrations elevated him. And, and to be fair, in 2020, like, I don't think many people were really onto how evil Fauci's involvement was. I don't think it took a little bit while into the Biden administration to realize how inherently dishonest Fauci was, especially with his original response to the virus, where he said, like, masks don't work and 6 feet distancing doesn't work. And then he immediately backtracked on all of that because he understood he had to somehow take a role which superseded the real story, which is he actually funded the creation of the virus, right? And so he is now being pardoned at the very last moment by President Biden. We have a article here. Let's just see if we can pull it up here. Hold on a quick second. There we go. We want to bring in the point of view from Michael Schellenberger. Let's do that here. He has something to say on this. I think it's worthy of review. Biden pardoned Fauci. It's not an admission of guilt. Okay. But if Fauci were innocent, no pardon would be needed. Thank you, Michael. The evidence suggests Fauci helped create the COVID pandemic and then covered it up, which is basically what I just said. The investigation must go forward. All COVID and Fauci files must be released. And that was Schellenberger's response this morning. He reposted a post from September of 2023. Fauci said he had an open mind about COVID's origin, but he didn't. A new months-long investigation by Racket and Public reveals that Fauci secretly lobbied the CIA, the State Department, and the White House to reject the theory that COVID came from a Chinese lab his agency funded. From Public, Fauci diverted U.S. government away from lab leak theory of COVID's original origin. Sources say Fauci allegedly attacked the lab leak theory at meetings at the CIA, State Department, and White House. Matt Taibbi, Alex Gutentag, and Michael Schellenberger. Good for them. By the way, great to have you here today. Good morning. Happy Trump Day. Just like when you do something literally on your way out the door, you know it's wrong, right? I think in life, you always have to ask yourself, would you want to tell your mother this, right? When faced with a choice about doing something right or maybe not so right, there's always the mom test, right? Do you want to come home and tell your mom you broke the neighbor's window, right? No, of course not. Do you want to come home and tell your mom that on the last day of your job, you pardoned somebody that actually created the no, of course, no, you wouldn't. And the reason why you do this is because you're ashamed of your action. The reason why you wait until the very last day, the very last hours, is because you're ashamed of what you've done. That's exactly what's going on here. You're ashamed of what you've done. We'll cut in now to the Fox stream here real quickly here. Let's see what's going on at Blair House.
When we lived in Washington, I remember that
This is the live feed from Fox
that church
News.
is open to the public.
Does not appear.
Blair House. St. John's Church is open to the public, and you can go to services
much
on
is
the
going
weekends,
on right now
and you
at
never
Fox. So we'll mute that
when
and come back to it in a second.
Might drive or walk across.
There's the button there. But it is kind of cool that we have the technology to bring that in. I did notice one thing in specific. If they go back to it, there we go. I'll show it to you again. The massive awning that is coming out of the Blair House, and it goes into a tent, and that's probably how they're going to get Trump into the car. There you can see it there better in that picture. And the reason why that is for security reasons. As you can see, the green awning going into the tent. That is absolutely 100% security. Some of you might not remember, and this is before my time, of course, but President Truman was the subject of an assassination attempt literally right there on the steps of the Blair House during his term as president. And right there in the steps of the Blair House. Now, on a normal day in Washington, D.C., so like you say like next Monday, you can walk right by the Blair House, which I've done many, many times. You can walk right by the Blair House there, and I do believe they have a plaque, because vaguely remembering that I think somebody could fact check me on this, but I think a police officer or somebody lost their life that Truman did not lose their life. But there is a plaque commemorating or honoring or recognizing, acknowledging the assassination attempt on Truman that occurred, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Puerto Rican nationalists that tried to kill Truman right there on the steps of the Blair House. And I'm sure that's like somewhere as you look at this picture, somebody at the Secret Service probably remembers that or should. I mean, literally, there's a plaque on the wrought iron fence right there, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what's going on in Washington. Not much. I understand the rally yesterday was, what do the kids say? I think the kids say the rally was fire, right? I think that's what the kids say. We were going to cut to MSNBC, but no, we're not going to cut to MSNBC. Let's bring up our next important story here this morning, and that is going to be a local story here that we're covering at johnfgately.com. johnfgately.com. And let's bring it up here. I broke this morning. You can get it on at johnfgately.com. Bail group for illegals in ICE custody lags behind filing in tax and annual reports, but has $2.3 million in assets. So many of you have been telling me, hey, Jack, you've got to follow the money. I hear it from you all the time. And so this weekend I was reading the Boston Herald, and they quoted somebody from this organization called Beyond Bond and Legal Defense Fund. And I said to myself, I had never heard of them. And I was like, who are they? And, 2 or 3 Google searches later, it was while I was watching the football games this weekend, I realized I had a huge story on my hands, because they have assets of $2.3 million and a net worth of $1.7 million. And they haven't filed a lot of the required state reports with the Attorney General's office, who oversees charities and charity transparency here in Massachusetts. And you know that our current Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, has pledged to fight Trump whenever possible, especially on the immigration issue. So they have this money to bail people out of ICE custody. This is a picture right from their Instagram, a recent picture right from their Instagram. And as you can see, the top two things on their list: support at immigration court hearings and money to help pay bond. Now, you might just say to yourself, how does an organization that has $2.3 million in assets have a net worth of $1.7 million? There's almost $600 million difference there. What's going on? Well, they have liabilities. And those liabilities keep going up. Let me just scroll down to that paragraph here. Here we go here. And, we don't know what these liabilities are, but you can only assume, given the mission of the organization, that these are outstanding bond liabilities. In 2020, they had $347,000 of bond of liability, then $446,000, and then in the last year, for which they have provided a record, $579,000 in liability. So which we can only assume is bond liability, although we can't say for sure, but given the nature of the organization, that's probably what it's for. Here is their mission: Beyond Bond, which raises money for immigration bonds to free people in ICE prisons in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, has only filed one tax return with the state attorney general's office for the year 2020, and not for the years 2021, 2022, and 2023. Obviously, tax returns for 2024 are not yet due. They did file some tax returns with the federal government, but so we have 3 tax returns from 2020, 2021, and 2022 when you put the Fed and but they're way behind on their paperwork. They've also not filed any annual reports except one. So when they became a charity in May of 2020, they then were required to file an annual report. They did not file that annual report until April of 2022. So it became a charity in May of 2020, but it took them 2 years to file the 2020 report. 25 months, actually. It took them, or 23 months. 23 months. It took them almost 2 years to file the report for the year in which they became a charity. So we don't know really, because it's been several years now. We're now in 2025. We don't actually know who's running this organization, how much money they have on hand, or any of that. Now, Jack, why should we know that? Because when you're a 501c3 tax-deductible organization, part of the requirement is that you file your tax returns in a public manner. This organization is not a private individual. It's a public charity. And as a result, their financials are a matter of public record. But if they don't file it, then they're not a matter. See how convenient that is? And if you have an attorney general who is sympathetic with your point of view, maybe she'll let you slide, Or one other possibility is that the charities division at the attorney general's office is incredibly lax in their enforcement. That is for everybody. That is also a possibility as well. So when you look at their current financials, which we scroll down here, $2.3 million in assets, $579,000 in liabilities, and $1.7, almost $1.8 million in net assets. Bonds can range anywhere from $2,000 to $20,000 per person. Our bond works with families and other bond funds across the country to get people out of ICE prisons. Together, we continue to free people from immigration prison, reunite families, and here's the rich part coming up, and keep communities together in the face of white supremacist and xenophobic state violence. You see, according to these people, you wanting to have a border that defines the country is white supremacist and xenophobic state violence. So we don't really know a heck of a lot about who runs it because they haven't filed an annual report. But we do know that they're currently co-located with the Unitarian Universalists, the UU. You know who I mean. The Unitarian Universalists in Cambridge. In Cambridge, there's the big church right there in Harvard Square, and then there's a couple of administrative offices behind it, adjacent on Church Street, across from the famous theater there in Harvard Square, and that's where they're located. They're co-located with, I know this is going to be shocking to you, they're co-located with Sanctuary Boston, a community of vibrant worship and real connection grounded in the UU movement. You might remember, of course, that the Unitarian Universalists opened their Boston headquarters as a shelter for migrants in February of 2024. So these UU folks are all in on the invasion. They are pro invasion for sure. I did notice, however, that this organization had some high-powered lawyers set up their nonprofit. Their nonprofit was set up by Nutter, McClellan, and Fish, which is like, I don't know, it's like white shoe law firm of Boston. I mean, literally founded by Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis. I think, like, figuratively speaking, in his dorm room at Harvard University in 1879. I mean, Nutter, McClellan, and Fish is top shelf. They are a top shelf law firm, and they did the paperwork apparently to create the 501c3. And one of their partners, at one time at least, served as the assistant clerk of the organization. So they have some high-powered lawyers, and they are plugged into this Unitarian Universalist pro-invasion, hold on, let me get my air quotes, church. And what a coincidence. They're far behind on their financial disclosure paperwork, both their tax return and their annual reports. I guess they're too busy fighting xenophobic state violence to actually comply with the state regulation. I guess that's what it happens to be. Thank you so much for you being here. Let's see, Mary has a comment. I was at the rally. I confirm it was fire. All right. Mary went to some type of rally. I guess maybe, did you go in Washington, D.C. this weekend? Good for you. Or maybe you're still there. I don't know. Trump is coming down with a lot of new executive orders. One of the most promising, as you know, I've been following this wind farm, or I should stop calling it a wind farm, wind installation. Last night, Jackie Heinrich at Fox came out with a story, and I think I reposted it. Let me just find it here for you quickly. See, quickly here, it's going to be taking just a quick second. Relative to the wind farm situation, here it is here. Bring it up here for you. Here we go. According to Jackie Heinrich, President-elect Trump's 200 day one executive actions will include, and apparently Paul Diego Craney read the fine print, a national emergency and pause all offshore wind leases. Wow, that is big news for us in the anti offshore wind community. Got my no more wind turbine bumper sticker right over here. And I got a new sticker when I was in New Bedford on Saturday. That is big news for us because it's a start. Now, I did have a follow-up question for Mr. Trump, effectively. Wonder if that means any new leases or activity/construction on current projects. And Craney says, I vote for all of the above. So there's going to be a lot of lawyers that are going to be very busy today looking over the fine print of these 200 day one executive orders. So, and they deal with all sorts of aspects of federal government regulation. Excuse me, quick sip. And the devil's in the details, obviously, with these things. So I am super excited, and I think it's a great step in the right direction. But my sense is that this means that there won't be any future leases. So if you're ready to sign your lease for the Gulf of Maine and you haven't inked it yet by this morning or by 11:40 this morning, it's going to be on hold. Yeah. So I don't think it's a halt of construction, but if you're feeling a little chill in the air, if you're an executive for a wind farm company, you might feel like you have the window open this morning and it's a little drafty, because there is a chilling effect coming to this boondoggle of an industry, which is going to massively increase your electric and energy rates, and at the same time kill a lot of wildlife for no reason. I mean, there's no reason to have this. We have an abundant supply of energy just a short distance, just a pipeline away. We have abundance of energy that a lot of people used to say was green. But now that it can be supplied at a cheaper price than the stupid windmills, now they're against it. Now, and that is natural gas. We got boatloads of natural gas, especially over in Pennsylvania, and they could send it to us and we could burn it and we could have cheap energy or affordable, nothing, it's never going to be cheap, affordable energy. We could have affordable energy, but they don't want to do it. And why is that? Why are they trying to literally, or figuratively, I should say, why are they trying to figuratively take away your natural gas stove? Because they don't want you to have the option. Because if you have the option, you will choose natural gas, because guess what? It's a better mousetrap. And they want to take away that mousetrap so that they can give you the inefficient whale killing mousetrap, which is offshore wind. That's how diabolical, or how do I say, blindly religious, I think that's another way to think about it, that Maura Healey is when it comes, and all the pro offshore wind people. And remember, there's a lot of people that are wetting their beaks, from this, of which right at the top of the list is organized labor. If you're a organized labor person, you're really happy about offshore wind, because it's a giant construction project that you're going to be able to work on for years to come. If these folks were really for green energy, we'd be building nuclear power plants left and right in the United States, which is what we should be doing. Because I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and she's like, why do we want another nuclear power? We just closed one, actually. I lived right near a nuclear power plant. Never occurred to me. Did you joke about it? Occasionally, you'd be like, oh, like, if anything goes wrong, at least we'll be, at least we won't be around to worry about it. It will go quick. But it really wasn't. It was kind of just gallows humor. We really weren't worried about it. And a lot of people that worked at the plant lived on my street, and now they're all moved away and the jobs are gone, because they closed the plant. The point is, that plant, which my uncle helped build, he was in the pipe fitters union, and that plant was built in the 70s. The technology was probably from the 50s or 60s. And now in 2025, we can build that same type of plant so much more efficiently, right? You get the idea. In the same way, if you were to look at a car built in 1975 and compare it to a car built today, they are night and day, right? They are night and day. They still have a gasoline combustion engine, it's still a nuclear power plant, but they are night and day in terms of the technology and the deliverable and the safety. And it's just, unbelievable. A Ford Bronco 1 versus my Ford Bronco. Like they're both an orange, They are completely different oranges, right? Exactly. Mary confirms she is in Washington, D.C. She is in Washington, D.C. Well, good morning from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for tuning in, Mary. Great to have you here. Happy Trump Day. Happy Trump Day. Glad to have you with us. So there are, if we can get into the Biden, if we can get into the Trump, where is it here? Oh, hold on. Let's see if there's anything happening over at, no, there's an ad. Okay, we'll stop that. Anything over here? Trump will lay out complete restoration of America during inaugural address. Historic comeback. And it is an historic comeback, isn't it? I mean, it's like, can you believe this happened? I woke up this morning at Fox at 7 o'clock, and they did kind of like a super cut of everything that happened during the 2024 campaign. And, you know, it was everything. The McDonald's, the garbage truck, Butler, Pennsylvania, Biden dropping out, Biden in the debate, Kamala, you know, word salad, Kamala. And like, it's just so great to win. I mean, I know we live here in Massachusetts, and it is what did my one of my favorite accounts on Twitter said is kind of like Massachusetts, kind of like living in a prison. Where is that? Here it is. Here, hold on. One of my favorite accounts on Twitter, Boston Radio Watch. Sometimes Massachusetts is a living prison, and yeah, but you know what? Gloating is unseemly, but today is kind of our day to gloat, isn't it? I mean, right? It really is an amazing thing, and I had my doubt. Like, I was like, you saw me do the 6-hour live stream on election night or whatever it was, and I was like, anything could happen, and you know, I always, every campaign that I've ever been involved in, I always prefer to think that we're going to lose up until the very last minute, because I think when you think you're going to lose, you work harder. The second you start to think you're winning is when you start to lose. You know, just foot to the pedal the whole time. That's kind of, you know, how I think about campaigning. So I didn't want to let myself believe that we could win. And it is a team sport. You know, my friend Paul Sheehan from South Boston said, you know, basically it's just my group of guys versus your group of guys. And instead of playing football or baseball, we're playing politics. That's all it is. It's really in a nutshell. And our team won. And I know we're living in the bubble or in the prison or behind enemy lines here in Massachusetts, as Boston Radio Watch observes this morning. But our team won. And by the way, Boston Radio Watch is referring to some bill about gambling or whatever. That doesn't matter. It's the sentiment. It's the big government sentiment. And our team won. And our team won real big. I mean, we won the Senate. We won the House, sort of. And yeah, I mean, we won really big. Where is that? There it is here. I want to get to the highlights of this Jackie Heinrich story. President Trump-elect, day one executive actions. Close the border to all illegal aliens and declare a national emergency at the border. Sign me up. Direct designations of cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Excellent. Reinstitute remain in Mexico, end catch and release, and direct the military to construct a new phase of the border wall. The military to construct the border wall. That's interesting. By the way, and I think there is something that's impactful here, is that we will probably have here in Massachusetts fewer people coming from outside the country, but it is also possible that illegal immigrants would move into Massachusetts from other states. Now, news is that the first immigration raids will occur in Chicago, New York, and what was the third city? I can't remember the third city. Was it Atlanta? I can't remember. But Boston is apparently a top 5 target for immigration raids, which gets us back to this story. That's why I thought this story that we published this morning was so important, because if immigration raids are coming to Massachusetts, we should probably know that we have a right to know, because they're a 501c3 nonprofit charity. We have a right to know who's funding their bail, but because they haven't filed the paperwork, we don't know. So back to Jackie Hedrick. Fully unleash Alaskan energy. Terminate Biden's policies that have constrained U.S. supply. So if I'm an energy lawyer, I'm probably not going to be at the party today, because I'm probably going to have to figure out what this executive order means, because it, in quotes, it sounds really good, and it probably is really good. But obviously, if you have some leases up there in the Alaskan wilderness, you're probably going to want to know if those are now valuable under Trump, where they were, in Biden, they were frozen effectively, no pun intended. Return federal workers to in-person work. Oh, they're going to have to actually go to work. I have a very good friend that works for the EPA in downtown Washington, and she's going to have to go back to work. Sorry. Strengthen control over senior government officials and implement a new merit-based hiring review. Merit-based hiring? You mean we're not going to hire people based upon the color of their skin or some other attribute like that? We're going to actually judge them by the content of their character. Oh, I get it. Suspend security clearances for 51 national security officials who lied about the. Okay, I think that's gotten a lot of attention. End all DEI programs across the federal government. Yes. Establish a new Department of Government Efficiency hiring freeze and declare a national emergency and pause off all offshore wind leases. Excellent. Withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. Direct all agencies and departments to remove all federal actions that increase costs for families and consumers. That's another one of those bullet points that you're like, tell me more about that one. I'm sure there's a lot of detail involved in that. I'm just trying to find the other story I wanted to find for you. Just it was in my mind, and then it went away. Hold on a quick second. So one of the things I wanted to say about this is that a lot of people get elected, and then what happens is they bleed out these executive orders over time. And the thinking is, rather than do it all in one day, like Trump seems to be trying to do, like everything in one day or a lot in one day, rather than trying to do a lot in one day, a lot of people say you're stepping on the story. You're going to, that each one of those bullet points could be a separate story for the Trump administration over the next like 2 or 3 months. And a lot of people would say, a public relations person might say, no. These are all good things, but what you should really do is sprinkle them out over the next like 3 months from a public relations strategy, because they keep on giving you good news day after day after day for like 90 days. And a lot of people take that strategy. The problem is, if you haven't noticed, is there are going to be built-in constituencies that are going to be against these things. And the more time that you get them to organize against you, the more time, how do I want to say that, the swamp has to take back over. And instead, if you come in with shock and awe, you don't give them time to react. You're like, this is going to happen on day one, and tough luck. And we won, right? Remember that part? And so you don't give them the time that they would otherwise have to convince you otherwise, or to compromise you, or to come up with some type of other Russiagate thing where you're distracted, right? Instead, you're just coming in day one and saying, there's a new sheriff in town. And so that's why I'm incredibly grateful that there are over, what did Jackie Heinrich say? Over 200 of these executive orders, because it is incredibly enticing. There's 200 executive orders on day one. It is incredibly enticing to sprinkle these out over the next 96, even 6 months, right? That's how a lot of presidential administrations would have done it, or gubernatorial administrations. Don't do everything at once. You're stepping on, these are all great stories that make you all look, you're stepping on them. And the fact that they haven't succumbed to that type of public relations thinking, and instead they also don't want to give the swamp any chance to come back at them or compromise them or distract them, is a great tribute to the Trump and the Trump team, to Trump and Trump's team, to recognize the pitfalls of delay, which fortunately they're not going to fall for. So really grateful for that. We do have some movement here, I think, out of Blair House, and we'll check that in a second. I believe the president is going to attend church, if I'm not mistaken, this morning, and he's departing for church. We're got a little internet problem there, so we'll figure that out in a minute. I am going to depart for my Plymouth Republican Town Committee. I'd be really, if in the comments you want to tell me how you're going to be watching the inauguration today at 11:40 is the official swearing in. I feel really bad for you folks that had tickets to be outside today, and your event got canceled. I imagine you're now going to be at the hotel bar or someplace like that. If you've never been to Washington, D.C. for an inauguration, I've been once. It is really a thrilling and very exciting thing for, even if it's not, your guy. It is really a super interesting thing to observe. And I went once, many decades ago, when I was really young, and it is an amazing, and I think in a way, like, emotional thing. So I'm sorry for those of you who are going to be outside and can't witness it in person, which is something that, like, literally I'll never forget. But and then afterward, you see the former president fly off in the helicopter. I remember specifically I remember that memory distinctly. And you're waving goodbye to the old president, and then there's the new and not that you can see because you're way out in the Capitol grounds and all that. The person taking the oath holding up their hand is that small, but to be there with all your fellow Americans is an amazing thing. Just know that obviously all across the country, people are going to be glued to their television. Today is, I have never seen the hype for an inauguration like this inauguration. I don't think ever. I think that's fair, that I have never seen, and I'm 56. I've never seen the hype for an inauguration like I've seen for this inauguration. Never. I know I'm super excited about it, but I've never seen this type of hype. And so apparently Trump has now arrived at St. John's Church. You might remember, if I'm not mistaken, somebody can fact me, and St. John's Church is just around the corner, if I'm not also mistaken, from Lafayette Park. Totally probably walkable from Blair. I think I've walked it, actually, from Blair House to St. John's Church. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't it St. John's Church where Trump walked to and held up the Bible, where the fire was? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all the same place. So it's kind of a, how do I want to say this? Full circle here for President Trump to come back to St. John's Church on inauguration. It is kind of the president's church. Not officially, obviously, because we have separation of church and state, but unofficially, it's right across Lafayette Park from the White House, and it is kind of a irony that he is back there this morning. So, anyways, I am going to do a couple of things around the house here. Got to do some family duties, and then I am going to attend my Republican Town Committee here in beautiful Plymouth. We're actually having an official meeting of the Republican Town Committee this morning. I thought that was a pretty clever thing. We're co-locating it at the same time at the Cabbie Shack in downtown Plymouth. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to seeing my local Plymouth people there and celebrating with the entire country. So God bless America. God bless Trump. God bless you. Have a great Trump day. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.